Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Macola 10, a single solution to automate, manage, and grow your business. My name is Julie Blankenship, and I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at Macola Software. We know your time is valuable, so we appreciate you sharing some of it with us today. Now, with that said, I'd like to introduce our panelists for today's webinar. Our first presenter is Nick Mears, Senior Product Marketing Manager, who has 10 plus years experience in technology, B2B, B2C, and public-private sector marketing. Nick's background also includes a tenure with both marketing and PR firms, serving clients in technology and software, healthcare, financial, and manufacturing, including companies such as Abbott Laboratories, Eli Lilly, Nationwide, and Ashland Chemicals. Next, I'd like to introduce our other presenter for today's webinar, Steve Featherston, Senior Business Consultant Pre-Sales. He has been with Macola for 5 years. Prior to that, Steve managed the implementation of Macola for many of Macola's customers. Prior to Macola, for 16 years, he worked in 3 different companies, all using Macola. Before this, Steve owned his own business for 22 years in the consumer electronics industry. Now, with that said, I'd like to pass this over to Nick Mears.
Well, thank you, Julie, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We appreciate you spending some of your afternoon with us. So let's get started here. We're looking at 3 questions that we want to answer. Who uses Macola? How can Macola help you? Why is Macola different? So first off, who uses Macola? The companies that use Macola are primarily in either manufacturing or distribution. So these companies could be just about anything, especially those that are in what we think of as discrete or process manufacturing. So they can be metals, they can be household goods, they can be food and beverage, injection molding, industrial machinery. Basically, if you're in that space creating something in a manufacturing environment, then you're probably a good candidate for us. And we have thousands of customers who have used Macola just to solve their needs. Now size, from a size perspective, we typically target what we think of as a small and medium-sized business, but we also serve larger companies too. So for us, that means anywhere from about 20, which would be a smaller company, up to about 10,000 employees. Geographically speaking, it's safe to say that Macola has a global footprint. From the US, Canada, Latin America to Europe, Asia, and Africa, Macola has a global customer base. So Macola has also been around for a while, in fact, over 40 years. In that time, over 8,000 customers have relied on us to run their business. Macola 10 is what we like to call all-inclusive and scalable, meaning you get more functionality for better ROI, and because it's scalable, something you can grow into. We'll talk more about the scalability of Macola 10 later on. But first, who uses Macola? So when we think of those companies that use Macola, there are a few on here that you might recognize. At the same time, these customers are not necessarily representative of all of our customers, because a lot of our customers are ones that you wouldn't recognize. They're companies that are behind the scenes, or companies that feed into the supply chain. So maybe you've heard of a Simple Green or White Castle, but you probably haven't heard of the other 99% of our customers who make something for the supply chain. Now, who could benefit from Macola? Well, first of all, is anyone who's experiencing any of these 4 challenges. So first is the organization that has siloed information. It's inaccessible data that lives solely in a single department. Second, information everywhere. Who knows where you find the answers to your questions? Third, you're seeing lost tasks that are slipping between the cracks because at first they may seem insignificant, but it's amazing the amount of chaos one missed task can have on an entire process. And the fourth is an area of unknown responsibilities, where really no one knows who is responsible for what. So if you're experiencing any of these challenges, then you could benefit from Macola 10. And speaking of challenges, let's conduct our first poll here. So Julie, if you could open our first poll up, please. And I'd like to get your thoughts on this. Here's the poll question. What do you see as the greatest challenge facing your business? So is it collaborating across functions, meeting productivity, making processes more efficient, centralizing data collection, reporting with real-time data. So it looks like the winner here is that quite a bit, making processes more efficient. Steve, I'm going to ask you to analyze this.
Well, that's pretty good. I was taking my own bets. I was going for making processes more efficient, but followed up right in back of that would have been reporting with real-time data, and it's obvious that that's what the majority of the people feel too, is be able to create efficiencies, and I guess we're kind of a tie between collaborating across functions and reporting on real-time data, but I think real-time data is very important to me.
Absolutely, real-time is. We'll talk more about both of those, real-time data and creating more efficient processes here in a second. Thanks, Steve, and thanks for everyone for casting your vote here. So how, the next point here, how can Macola help you? So there's actually 6 benefits for Macola 10. First off is improved visibility and control of enterprise processes. Next, reduce costs and increase revenue, followed up by reduced errors and improved accuracy, spotting bottlenecks and redundancies while increasing efficiencies. There we go, that was our poll winner. Next, reduce manual effort and paperwork with increased productivity, and then increasing customer and employee satisfaction. Now there's some role-based benefits that Macola brings. And I want to get a little more specific here because in your business, each business function, each role has different responsibilities and different needs. Macola addresses these different roles and responsibilities. Now, here's just a few of the different roles that Macola can help with. For starters, the president may be looking to increase collaboration across business functions or to better manage the supply chain. The director of operations may be looking to optimize the shop floor and spot bottlenecks and redundancies. We can help with these. And why is Macola different? Well, here's some industry recognition. Just recently, Macola was recognized by Frost & Sullivan. We won an award for product leadership in ERP. When describing us, Frost & Sullivan mentioned things like complete functionality, highly scalable, personalized workspaces, role-specific views. 2 of my favorites, integrated and scalable. We're proud of this recognition from Frost & Sullivan. And what else makes Macola different? Let's take a look at a few of these. First off is all-inclusive value. Macola offers functional areas such as manufacturing, project management, distribution, accounting, finance, HR, CRM, and it's all-inclusive. This is an example from the general manager at Solaire Medical. He said Macola was an inclusive solution. It just had a lot more functionality. And then he compared it to other solutions where you could get functionality, but they were more expensive when you put them all together. And that's really important, is the all-inclusive aspect of it. Yeah, make sure you're looking at an apples to apples comparison. What all do you get? So all-inclusive, you can mix and match. You may not want all of them at first. You may only need a few. But either way, you can start with the ones you need now and grow into the others later at no additional cost. That's the key. And from manufacturing to customer relationship management and everything in between, Macola can help you with a few of these features and functionalities. There's quite a depth and breadth, actually. Steve, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, Nick, there's a lot of different areas that can support the processes and functional areas of companies' operations, and this just goes to show a few of them related to each one of the major functional areas.
Absolutely, and we'll try to cover some of these in this demo today, won't we? So
we will.
Yeah, and so next up, let's do another poll here. Julie, if you could, let's kick this poll off. What core function of ERP does or could benefit your organization the most? So go ahead and cast your vote. Project management, manufacturing, distribution, accounting and finance, CRM. Okay, this is interesting. 37% manufacturing and then 26% distribution. Steve, let's get your thoughts on this here.
Yeah, I had it a little bit the other way around. I was going with distribution first and manufacturing second. I was throwing about 50% at distribution and 30% at manufacturing, but it's interesting to see it the other way. Both have been very strong areas for the Macola application.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julie. Let's go ahead and close the results there. Thanks, everyone, for voting again. We appreciate you interacting with us today. So moving on, integration between business functions, sales, support, purchasing, shipping, finance. Configuration instead of customization. Macola is cost-effective, out of the box, configurable. Customizations can be costly. That's why we like to say you can configure without changing the code. Also, what makes Macola different? Automated workflows that increase efficiencies. These can reduce manual effort and paperwork, improve visibility and control of enterprise processes. And I want to show you an example here of how an automated workflow can actually increase efficiencies. A lot of times companies have individual processes that aren't really processes at all, but are more like a series of disjointed and disparate actions. They're not connected, and because of this, they certainly can cause pain points, like delays due to late paper filings, a mailbox that isn't being checked in time, manual data entry, siloed data. So what we do first is organize and put these into a process flow. Next, we can take these formerly disjointed tasks and start replacing some of these tasks, sometimes multiple tasks at a time, and even eliminating some of those manual tasks. So this is just an example of how processes can be affected in any organization. Basically, you can configure Macola to meet the needs of your specific workflows and the needs of your organizations. This is the strength of Macola's automated workflows. And I really like this quote here. This is from the director of IT from GL Mazzetta regarding automated workflows. He says, in one department, we dropped 4 hours every day on one task, and that's really just by using workflows and document management. It's a great quote, and what would you do if you could eliminate 4 hours in every department every single day? Just think about that. And thank you, GL Mazzetta, for sharing this with us. So just a couple more here. What makes Macola different? Personalizable views into the data that matters to you. We start out with 42 out-of-the-box role-based, ready-made workspaces. If you don't like any of those, you can create your own, basically configure your own. There's menus on transactional screens. You can perform transactions. Next up is anytime, any device. From the desktop to the laptop and to tablets on the shop floor. Increase the speed of doing business with anytime, anywhere access. We like to say take your data where you work. And last up is flexible purchase options. From perpetual to subscription to enterprise license, we want to align what might work best for you. And here's one last quote here from another customer. They were a metal fab in the metal fab industry, and they manufactured conveyor belts. She says it used to take us between 3 to 5 days to quote one of our larger jobs. Now we're down to half a day. For them, they found the bottleneck, and with Macola significantly reduced the amount of time that it took them to quote orders. So now let's pass this off to Steve for a closer look here.
Great. Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Steve.
Today we're going to be taking a walk through Macola's quote-to-cash process. Basically, as you see here with these icons, we're going to start through an opportunity, work it through a quote, through purchasing, production, shipping, invoice that order out, and hopefully receive cash on it. We're going to be looking at the most recent version of Macola, which should be 10.5.1, released in June. Now, with this, we're going to be assuming certain roles. We're going to have a sales rep, Ron Calley, there, who's going to enter a sales opportunity. He may process that opportunity, enter a quote. He could convert that quote into an order. if he wants to in the field, and then that would in turn maybe make a notification to somebody inside in sales support that we've got a rush order that needs to be placed. Some of these automations we're going to see. The person in sales support may end up converting that order or processing it, printing the pick tickets on it, and get it going. And when that gets authenticated and put in place, it may notify other people in the company. Our purchase agent may get a heads-up alert on this. And in turn, that person will go and check MRP and see if there's any materials he needs for it, may end up placing a purchase order, even have that PO automatically created for him. Or release that PO, receive those products in, and our production manager would then get notification of this order also. He may take a look and see that the order is automatically created. He may confirm that he's got the inventory from the purchasing team, releases that to production, and reports production on it. When that's finished, he's probably going to roll that item down to shipping, and our gentleman in shipping will end up reviewing the shipping schedule and ship that order. This in turn will probably trigger a workflow to finance, letting them know that they have an invoice to bill out. So in turn, they're going to bill that invoice, print it, post it, hopefully receive cash on it, and our manager there, Glenn, the CEO, will end up taking a look at that with real-time data and KPIs. So that's the process we're going to do today.
Well done, Steve. Now take a deserved breath right there.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nick. Appreciate that.
No, looking forward to seeing more of this here.
Very good. The first step we're going to take is with our sales rep, Ron Calley, and he's going to be somebody who's kind of a road warrior, mobile in the field, so we're going to use possibly some of the mobile applications for this, and we're going to kind of walk through those first couple of steps that we did in our process flow. We are taking a look at Macola 10 presently. We're looking at Ron Calley's desktop. Now, everybody's desktop can be configurable by their own, so his may look a little bit different. This is as he's maybe in a hotel and he's checking his email and he's checking to see what tasks he has, and he may end up going downstairs and picking up a cup of coffee, but he may switch from his laptop to possibly an iPad. So I'm going to show what it looks like to maybe be on an iPad and be on the same application. And we're looking presently, I get that to show right on my screen here, at about the same kind of thing. This is a native browser that can be used in Macola 10, very similar to what we saw on his desktop. And he may be checking his calendar and see what tasks he's got going on for today. So in turn, we'll go maybe take a look at what his planning calendar looks like for this afternoon, and we're taking a look at October 11th. We see he's got something down on the bottom on the Wednesday there that's highlighted, so we'll in turn go to what his schedule looks like, and he's going to be meeting with Dove Equipment. He's going to meet with Javier, one of the buyers there, and this is in relation to a 30 horsepower scroll compressor that they are interested in. It is tied to a sales opportunity. You can see it there. We also see that finance wants us to kind of track the sales of these projects within the application. So we've got a project set in here to be able to collect the revenue and the costs involved in these particular operations. Now, he may end up going into that opportunity. We'll go and log in as in the sales opportunity here, and I can see that we have basically it's a $30,000 opportunity with a 90% chance of closure. So we're looking at maybe $27,000 today as a potential realized amount. I am able to track the item itself. I have a partner involved here, the general contractor, American Electric Power, who's going to install it for me. I've got some some possible competition out there, and I can see maybe the pluses and minuses related to that. Now, inside of this opportunity, it kind of collects everything all together. So I can see that project that was connected to finance that's tied our compressor sales to it. I can also go back to that opportunity and see other details that are related to it. For instance, if I've sent them any documents related to the opportunity, it might have been a fact sheet on the compressors, so those kind of things. I should be able to see anything that I've sent out related to this particular opportunity. Now, in speaking with him, I know what his desires are. He's looking to have a quotation printed, and I'll go out and visit him for that sales quote, sales visit, but I'd like to get that quote in hand to them. So we're going to end up using some of the new screens that came out in Macola 10.5, and be able to enter items and inquiries from these screens. So I might do an item snapshot and look up a particular item. Now I know that I don't have any air compressors in stock, so showing that would probably be not as detailed as maybe bringing up one of our other items. So I can bring up maybe an adventure bicycle and look at all the locations that I have that, and in turn see the details of how many I have on hand, how many I've got back ordered, how many I have on order, maybe some usage trends on it, what the details are of how much I have in each one of my warehouse locations. But what Javier is interested in is custom-made items, so we don't normally keep them in stock. We build them as we need them, and that's kind of what we're going to do here today. So I'll turn this so I can see more of my screen here, and we're going to enter a quotation for Javier. We'll start typing. We can see their name starts to come up here as a choice to select, so we'll grab Cliff Industries. Now we'll not grab that. I don't want Cliff Industries. And that often helps.
This just proves that everything is live that we're doing.
It is live. I don't want to put an order in. I actually want to do a quote, so we'll switch this over to a quotation. I'll scroll up a little bit further and we'll start looking at putting some item details in. I'll start typing the first couple of digits for the item that we're looking for, and we can select a 30 horsepower scroll compressor. Should fill in the details of all of that for me. See what my extended price is. Now I'm going to leave this as kind of a rush order. The requested date, the ship date's all going to be today, so this quotation is going to go in looking like it has to be processed right away. We'll end up adding that to our order. And as I do that, I can see the entire order here across the screen. I can kind of scroll it both ways, see which way I'd like to look at it. But from here, that would automatically send out to them. We'll submit this order, and that should show up as quote number 275 has been created. And I may in turn then go and visit with Javier. I'll just go over and maybe take a look at his account card and see some orders that he's got, have a discussion with him. So I can go to their account card, I can check available orders, I can check items that they're interested in, and maybe he wants some details or we're having some discussion about that SLE series of air compressors. So I may in turn end up searching for that, bringing up that documentation in front of him, and we'll see if we can bring that up. There it is there. So this will end up refreshing and showing me the detail on what would be a 30 horsepower scroll compressor. And I can discuss with him the features that it has, get the details, show him an image of what it's going to look like, and in turn maybe send him some other documentation on it. But Javier has decided that this is an item that he'd like to go ahead and purchase, so we're going to take that quote we put in and convert it into a sales order. So I'll move back to the new screens we have here, and I'll do a quick order inquiry on it. And that was quote number 275. So search for quote number 275 should come up down at the bottom, and it does. We could review this, or I could just simply convert this to a new order with the button that's up top, which we're going to do today. We're going to say, yes, I'd like to convert this to a new order, and it should in turn return back to me an order number. So we've got 1146 is the order number at hand, and that should then become visible to our teams back at the office. So going back to our native screen that we have here, we can take a look at this. That kind of completes what I'm doing here with him with his iPad, and he's maybe done with Javier and Dove equipment, and he may end up switching over to his mobile phone as he's traveling. So he's maybe completed his tasks there with Dove equipment a little bit early and wants to end up checking and see if there's any other customers around that he might be able to go and visit on his way. So I'm going to move over to my mobile device. We'll see if I can push that up in the screen in front of us here. And this is the Macola 10 app. And basically, I'm going to go and take a look at proximity here and see if there's any other customers in my area. So with the blue dot, it's identified me as being somewhere in North Jersey, and I've got a couple of customers close to me. One is John's Hot Dog Shop, the other being Marlowe Manufacturing. So I could drill into Marlowe, get some details on their account, maybe give me an address location on them. I probably want to give them a call and see if somebody's available, so I'll reach into the contacts and grab my primary contact here, Tony. And from this application, you can either email them directly or basically just tap on the phone link and dial them from your cell phone. But I do have the availability of looking up and working with a lot of the other features that are in Macola 10 inside of here. If I wanted to check my incoming workflow, I could check incoming workflow and see what my tasks are. And I can see here's right on top is my sales call with Javier at Dove today. We're in stage 4 of that opportunity and final negotiations with them, and that opportunity is kind of closed. So I could actually drill into this opportunity and close this and approve it and sort of wrap this opportunity up for that air compressor for Dove equipment. Now I have the availability of checking other inventory items in here, and I could probably place an order or do order lookups from inside of here also. I can see recent orders that have been put in. That'll give me a list of like the most recent one is 1146 is what we just put in for Dove equipment. You're seeing that on top. But I can also go and maybe check some of the reports that are inside of here. So if I wanted to go to maybe a mobile sales dashboard report, I could end up running that, and I may just need to move it around a little bit or shape it for my particular view screen, but I can see previous day's sales, past due quotations, maybe some detail on the companies that do the most business with me, and be able to use that to get the information I need. So from here, we're going to hop back over to our main desktop here, shut off my mobile devices, and we will have initiated through automation a notification to our internal sales team that maybe we've processed that order and it needs to be pushed through the company at this point. So at this point, we're going to log in as Robin in our sales support, and we'll see what roles that she has to do and be able to see her desktop. So from our sales rep, we're going to move over to Robin here in sales support, and she's going to get notifications of some activities. She may have some orders that need to be processed, and in turn, she'll push out order acknowledgments or internal notifications and get those rush orders out and in place. So we'll see what her desktop looks like presently. So as I log in as Robin in sales support, you see my desktop will change from Ron Calley, our road warrior, to Robin Smith, and her desktop's a little bit different. She's got about 20 hotkeys there, and she's able to adjust the color of these and the functions and features in back of them herself. All of these are kind of highly configurable, so she can kind of drag things around and make her environment be exactly what she'd like it to be. Now I see on her workflow over on the right-hand side here, we've got a heads-up alert that a rush order was just entered. So we may click that, and this is one of the automations we spoke of in the kind of the process flow. So this is created automatically by Ron Calley and notifies her that we've got a rush order in place for Dove Equipment Corporation. She can take the link here for the new order and be able to drill into that new order and see the details of it, and it's her responsibility in the role she's in to review that the salesperson's set up right, taxation's correct, it's got the right information, we've got the right item on here, we have none of these to ship, I can see that at the bottom here. And she may in turn print an order acknowledgement thanking for our customer for it, or print the pick ticket from here to get it going out to the warehouse and get it rolling. But a lot of these, like the order acknowledgement, I'd probably have done all in automation, so the customer's getting a copy of that kind of as they would without really any human intervention. So going back to her desktop, she's kind of initiated what she needed to do here and completed her part. We're going to end up moving over to Jack in purchasing, and he's going to probably get a notification also that there's a heads up going on. So we're finished with sales support. We're going to move over to this role of purchasing. And in that purchasing role, they're going to get visibility of inventory movements, and they may use MRP to give them an idea of what needs to be purchased. They may automatically have purchase orders created for them for things that they're short of and end up printing and receiving those purchase orders. So we're going to see what that looks like as we log in as Jack here and take a look at what his screen looks like. So I'm going to assume the role of Jack Davis here in purchasing, And his desktop is set up by him, again, just for the purposes that he has. Now, he did get a heads-up alert, much like Robin did, that she got an order in place that needs to be processed. And he can drill into it and see that it's related to the SLE series of compressors. So first thing he'd probably do is go ask the system, ask MRP if there's any purchase orders that need to be generated for material he's short of. So I'll in turn do that. I'll open up the application and I'll type in the series of compressors that we're dealing with. This is a TS series of compressors, and I'll ask it if there's anything I need to get for that order to be filled. And then you see we're short of 6 pieces of one item, 6 pieces of another, and 1 piece of an assembly kit that's required for it. Now I can ask the system that I'd like it to create POs automatically for me for these, and I'll do that here by selecting all of these items to be put on a purchase order. As that process is through, it should put a checkbox on the left-hand side saying that it's done that correctly. And as I step out of this, it's going to ask me to confirm that I'd like a PO created for these items, and I do. So we'll allow it to do that. Now, POs have to be printed, so we will in turn go through some of that process here, and we'll end up receiving the materials also. So we're going to go in and take a look at that purchase order that was created automatically. And that should be one of the highest number of POs. So we'll sort this by purchase order. And I can see we have now PO 587 for Shimani Corporation, which is in the unreleased status. It does require me to do some manual intervention here, but I'm going to ask it to release this PO. But you can see it's got the quantities and the items on it that MRP has told me that I needed. I'll in turn save that in the release state, and as I step out of this order, it's going to want that purchase order printed. That's the only way we'd be able to receive it, is to have a valid printed purchase order. So give that a second to print its purchase order, and then we'll end up receiving the materials for PO 587. So using some of the tools like this, where we can do a automation between departments, where we can actually have notifications sent from one department to another, have MRP automatically create POs. We're saving valuable time in each one of these areas. Now, although I'm asking the system to print the PO in front of us because we have to do that to receive it, this is again another one of those functions that we would probably have automation take place in, where it sends the purchase order to the vendor automatically. So there is my purchase order. As I step out of it, it's going to want to make sure that printed correctly, otherwise I won't be able to receive it. And I have completed that portion of releasing a valid PO. We're just going to go and receive all those items so I have the materials that I need to build on it. So this is order number 587. And we can kind of step through this, and I know I can count 12, 12, and 6, 6, and 1 being 13 pieces. So I'm going to receive all of these as ordered, and we'll see it kind of go through the different receiving lines of all 3 line items that are on there. We'll step through line item 1, line item 2, and line item 3, and receive them all automatically for me. Okay, as it completes that, we're going to end up logging off as Jackie's done his part, and we're going to move on to Bruce in production and be able to assume his role and build the product that we just got the order for. So we've completed the purchase manager's function, and as production manager with Bruce here, he's going to go and look to see if a order was automatically created for him in the production module. He may take a look at his capacity and get it built and in place and headed down the production floor so he can get it out, because it is a rush order. So without further ado, we'll kind of jump in as our production manager and have a look at what his workspace might look like. So with that said, I'm going to assume the role of our production manager, and his name is Bruce Huntington. I see him pop up on the top here, and he's again got a couple of heads-up alerts here for things that are going on. The rush order is the one that we're concerned about. And so he'll go and check to make sure that the system has automatically created a manufacturing order for that. And as we drill into the manufacturing orders, we should be able to see an unreleased order in place, order number 462 for an SLE series of air compressors. Much like the purchase functionality, there is human intervention here, but I can see that this order is tied to customer 233 on sales order number 1146 and specifically on line number 1, so I can release this order and get it out to the floor and get things going on it. So we'll end up releasing this order, printing the production work orders for it, and go from there. So his responsibility is to make sure that the product is headed down the production line, all the materials in place. So we have these items that need to be picked for it. And this is a simple assembly order, so they're going to assemble those parts and report production on the shop order or the production order. So we'll go and take a look at that. We're going to report production on that specific order, see if we can get this thing done. And that order number was order number 462. And we may report production here like it is. I may want to add some value-added costs to it if I don't have them in the bill of materials. So I can kind of drill in and add some value-added costs on the fly and say that I put a certain amount of overhead and labor into here. Maybe we spent, 30 minutes putting this project together for them, and we'll tie that into it and add some labor onto that particular job. I can say the order is complete, and as I hit save, it will report production, moving this item into inventory. And this is a lotted item, so it's going to come into the system using a specific lot number. It'll be 247. So I step out of that. It should complete the transaction and put that item into inventory. And into inventory it goes. So that's actually tied to the sales order. So as I'm reporting production on this in inventory, it's updating the sales orders with quantities to ship. So it's kind of saving a step there also. But as Bruce is finished with this, he's going to start rolling this down the hall down to the shipping department, where he's going to end up meeting up with Peter Bailey and get this product shipped out. So we're going to step off as Bruce and talk about the next step in this process and see if we can't move on to shipping. So our production manager is complete. Our shipping clerk is going to see this rolling down to him, and he may go and take a look and see in his shipping lineup whether it's actually listed as an item that needs to go out today. He may adjust his freight and tracking and bill of ladings and those types of things and get it shipped out the door. That's kind of what we're going to see here. So as we log in to Macola 10 as our shipping clerk, we will see what his desktop looks like and see maybe some of the tools he uses to get his job done. So as we log in as Peter Bailey here, we'll end up taking a look at what his workspace looks like. And in here, he's got the notification on top here, like an email, that he's got a rush order to work with, but Bruce has just rolled it down to him, so he's aware. He may end up going to his shipping lineup report here and take a look at everything that needs to go out today, and this order should be one of those. We're going to see it populate here with a list of all the orders that are in the system, and I've got a lot of orders here in my system, so I'm going to want to narrow this down a little bit to today and maybe just only today, so I can see what specifically has to go out the door this afternoon. So I hit refresh on this, and we should be able to see anything that's ready to go out for the 11th. We're seeing order number 1146 being a booked order for Dove Equipment Corporation for one SLE series of air compressors. It was manufactured on order 462 in the production department, and we can see it has updated the quantity to ship to 1. I can take this and ship this from here. In the system that I'm working on presently, the way my system is configured here, I require that we do a confirm ship process. This is an extra step and not necessary, but it does have the nice advantage of being able to remove the item out of inventory so it cannot be sold before it actually gets invoiced. So you can invoice this another day, but it won't be visible to people in the system. So we're going to do that presently. We're going to go and select confirm ship. It should bring up our order 1146. When I hit save to this, it's going to ask me, do I want to ship everything on the order? Certainly I do, for today's date. And it's now going to confirm that I'm grabbing lot number 247 and that specific compressor to be able to get that product out the door. So it has selected and tied the component to it, and as I step out of this, we do have the availability of putting in maybe some freight charges to this or a miscellaneous charge for crating it or packaging it, saving it, and he should have completed his task by this time. Now, if he had 5 or 10 orders on here, and we notice that the status of them is booked. We just confirmed ship this one, so as I hit refresh, we should see his report change and that we've got a confirmed ship notification on here. So he's kind of completed with what he needs to do in this particular instance. And we'll move on to what our next steps would be. So we're going to end up logging off as Peter Bailey, and we'll end up logging in as somebody from finance to do our invoicing and cash receipt. So we're going to assume the role of Joe Whitemore here, and his responsibility is going to be to bill out the product and also to post those invoices, and then hopefully receive some cash on that. So we will take a look at what his workspace looks like presently. So I will have logged out as Peter Bailey, and we're going to select a role of finance and log in as Joe Whitemore, which is what we've done here now. And when Peter shipped that product, the system automatically put a notification out there that there's an order that needs to be invoiced. Now, this is great when you have, 5 or 10 orders that go out a day. If you have hundreds of orders that go out a day, maybe you want a different type of notification. But as we scroll down to the bottom here, you can see Joe has the heads up alert that we got a rush order, but we also see an invoicing notification that the order 1146 has just shipped and shipping. So we're seeing that communication between our departments without actually having communicated by phone or by email. So with that said, I'm going to go in and build this order out. This is order number 1146. So we'll type that in, 1146, and as we save to this, we're asking, are we billing everything on the order? Yes, we are, for today's date. And it brings up the details we're seeing here that the shipping department have put in for freight and miscellaneous charges. We're also seeing tax calculations being done and commission calculations being done at this stage. It's saved to this and step out. I have selected that order for billing. We would select a variety of orders and then move to a print invoice function. And we can print invoices for a range of orders. Today we're just going to do it with order 1146 and print a single invoice for this. Invoices have to be printed, whether they're printed to paper or printed to file, before you can actually post that order to the general ledger. So we'll see the invoice being printed here, and it'll have us confirm that it printed correctly, and then we should be able to move on with our process. So these forms that we're seeing, the invoices, the purchase order forms, the order acknowledged forms, they're all customizable. So having your own logo on them, having information on there for terms and conditions is all something you would do in configuring the system as you started to install it. So as I step out, it's going to ask me, did this print correctly? It's my last chance to modify this order before it actually gets posted. And we like it like it is, so we'll say that that's complete. And now we'll be at the location or the point where we can actually post those invoices, and that would be our next step in the process. Now, Joe's got a couple of other things on his desktop here. He's got a view of his control accounts. He may have an executive scorecard that populates, but the hotkeys we're working with up top are the process keys that he needs to complete for today. End up going into posting of the invoices. We'll post all invoices today. And we should see order number 1146 pop up in that list, plus any others that I may have in place, and be able to finish with that operation. Now this can be done in the background. You can do this at night. It doesn't matter the timing of when you do it, but that is the steps to actually commit these orders to the general ledger. Now, one of the next steps that Joe has in place here is doesn't necessarily happen right after the order ships, but receiving cash is one of the more important parts of selling anything. So we'll end up using the tile here and receive cash. This will link us out to our cash receipt application. And for this, we're going to do a quick cash receipt today. I'll create a new one. And this new cash receipt will be for, maybe we got to check in for $30,000. I think that covers it. I do have the choice, opportunity to have multiple bank accounts. So we're going to bring this into our Bank One account. And this is going to be a transaction for $30,000 with today's date, and that may have a check number to it. So we'll throw a check number in. I usually like to use the deposit date being 10/11/2017, a reference to the date. and we can throw the actual deposit date in here. And we're going to now select what customer this is related to. It's tied to Dove Equipment Corporation, and we should see it go and make that journal entry for the $30,000 between the bank account and cash receipts. Now, being able to match this to the invoice is as simple as going to the matching function we see here in the center of the screen, and it will highlight the check on the left-hand side that I just received in, and then in turn highlight invoices on the other side that I want to match it to. So I'm going to tie it to the invoice that we just did today, and it's going to say that I've got maybe $1,230 that have been overpaid. I could in turn go and grab another invoice and attach another payment to it, or I could ask it to match and process these, and it'll ask me what I want to do with the difference. Do I want to write it off? Do I want to use it as a prepayment or refund it to the customer? We'll end up just leaving it on the account. These two transactions should disappear, and we have now completed the cash receipts and also the matching of the invoice. And as I step out of there, it'll kind of complete that transaction. Now, Joe has pretty much finished with his tasks, and the next steps would most likely be having our president review it. So as we begin to step out as Joe here, we'll then assume the role of our president and CEO. So Joe's completed his tasks, and Glenn is our president. He's going to end up taking a look at some information that's important to him, maybe see some details, KPIs of things that have gone on, and without further ado, we'll hop right into that. So stepping out as Joe, we're going to have the opportunity to log in as one of our executives, this one being Glenn Weissman. We'll log in at his workspace here, and he also may get that notification that we've had a couple of rush orders and we've had some shipping that's been done, but he can end up looking at this through some of the web parts or the elements that are on his workspace here, be it the control accounts or executive scoreboard that you're seeing there. So we're able to see, you know, transactions that have just happened and be able to get visibility of those. Now, these reports that we're seeing are not just informational, they are actually actionable. So if I'm looking at this $54 million of projected order revenue, which just went up, I might say, well, what's that all about? And I'd be able to drill from there to what would be maybe a sales dashboard and maybe take a little bit deeper dive on what that $54 million is all about. So I can see it up here on the top. I can go and look at the detail of the orders that make it up. I can see my year-over-year comparisons that we're seeing here. So September of last year, or excuse me, this year, and then again October, we're getting some details on compared to October of last year. You can also see what my top 10 customers are and top 10 items. Dove Equipment buying scroll compressors is fairly popular, so I could in turn drill in a little deeper into Dove, and maybe I could Google that account if I didn't know who they were, and it'd drop it into Google and bring that parameter up so I can see detail about them. Or I could run a customer snapshot and see maybe how this company is doing with my business. So specifically, Dove Equipment Corporation's been doing better this year than last. I can see this year we're almost $1.2 million, whereas last year we're $685. You can see they have $109,000 in outstanding AR in these 30 to 60 day buckets. We did just receive cash on them, so their average days to pay is pretty low. They pay pretty quickly. I can see what they purchased. I can also see any open orders that they have in the system, and I can drill into those orders for detail. So the point of all of that is that we're able to get deeper and deeper into reporting functionality by kind of launching off of Glenn's workspace and seeing the details of a specific number that we want more information about. So it's live into the moment is the idea. As soon as a transaction takes place, we're able to see the results of this in any type of workspaces that we have available to us. Now, it kind of concludes our transactions for today, and at this point, I'd like to pass it over to you guys, Nick and Julie, if you will.
Well, thank you, Steve. Definitely appreciate you walking us through that, and just have a few parting thoughts here about what we just saw. So how can Macola help you? It's a single solution, all-inclusive, has anywhere, web, mobile access, We like to say configuration instead of customization. I'm sure you heard that word a couple times when Steve was presenting. Increased efficiencies with automated workflows. That was our poll winner, first poll winner. Flexible purchase options and personalizable views into the data that matters the most to you or to your employee. Again, that's real-time data as well. So just a couple additional thoughts here. Please visit our website, Macola.com, for ebooks, success stories. There's YouTube for some of our videos of customers' success stories as well. We'll be sending up a follow-up email with the on-demand link of today's demo, and then we'll have a post-demo survey. And love to get your feedback on today's demo. So let's do some Q&A, and I'm going to pass this over to Julie here.
Great. Thanks again, Nick and Steve. So let's start answering the questions submitted during today's presentation. As a reminder, you can still submit questions through the questions pane in your attendee control panel. Looks like our first question is, can I manage multiple business units with Macola?
Well, that's probably a really good question. Nick, I'll take that if you don't mind.
Sure.
The interesting part about Macola 10 is that you can have separate legal entities, separate back office databases that are completely isolated from each other. So they can have their own books, their own general ledger, their own financial statements, their own employees, and yet they could be managed from one web interface, much like we're seeing here. I've put together many installations with multiple companies like that, where you can have folks in shared services like finance work across multiple businesses, and yet those businesses still remain fairly isolated as they need to be if they're separate legal entities.
Great. Another question we have is, what about WMS?
Okay. Nick, you want to try that one, or shall I?
Oh, go for it.
Okay, well, we have a couple of different WMS options. Macola has its own WMS solution, and we also have some very, very strong third-party WMS solutions. Each one of them has their pluses and features that, some companies need the whole bag of tricks, and some people only need maybe just the inventory tracking and PO receiving and those types of things. So it kind of depends on your need, but there are several options out there for WMS and Macola 10.
Okay, great. Another question is, we're currently on ES. How long is the conversion process?
Okay, the conversion process length is not terribly long. What I've often find is the challenges that affects timing of this is that the people who operate the software will need to be trained, and everybody's usually fairly busy, so it becomes a scheduling of when can you get people in and get them trained, when can they feel comfortable about it so that you can turn it on and go live. I'm sure that whether it's Macola's consultants or our partners' consultants, they could push you on Macola 10 in 24 hours, but being prepared on the training side maybe takes a little longer. Realistic estimates are 3 to 6 months is usually where we're seeing everybody gets their ducks in a row and properly trained and all the forms converted over so that they work properly, and you go from there.
Okay, great. Another question, is MRP built in or an add-on?
No, MRP is built in, has been built into Macola 10 for, well, Macola applications since their inception. It has changed and evolved a bit over the years, but it is fully functional and a complete built-in solution. We were using some of that today to have MRP recommend the purchase department what they needed to build or buy to be able to get product built.
Okay, great. One more question. Does Macola have a built-in CRM solution?
Yes, actually a very robust one. It enables you to connect your customers, your salespeople, your items, your inventory, your communications between them all together in one solution. So it doesn't require an integration to another application. Very, very fluid.
Okay, great. Well, I think that concludes our Q&A session. We'd like to say thank you again to our presenters, and thanks to everyone for attending today's webinar. If you have any other questions, please contact Nick at nick.mears, M-E-A-R-S, at exact.com. Also, once you leave today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the demo, and we greatly appreciate feedback if you could share it. And just a reminder, we will be emailing tomorrow a link to view a recording of today's webinar. Thank you again for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.